One of the biggest difficulties or hardest things to move to another country is culture differences and language. um, Not everybody learns the language when they move. It's like it's easier when someone who speaks English move to another country because English has been pushed as one of the universal languages, or perhaps the coming of it is Spanish. Spanish is spoken more widely. It's like Brits move to Spain, and Brits don't generally learn how to speak Spanish. But it's different when a person moves to, like, let's say I'm Turkish. Turkish person moves to England, even though they think they know a little bit English. Well, in my case, it took me a few years to realize that, oh, actually, I have no idea what was spoken around me. So it was almost like a living in a different universe. Um, it's not just the language, but it's the culture as well. Of course, there is normal this conventional culture. So what is it? There is this office culture. There's an office language. So it's much easier for people who move for jobs because they move to an office and they sort of talk the same language in the office environment. And for some people, um, I guess they move like villages, like my neighbor who is also a Turkish pizza place owner, and he has good pizzas, but I'm not able to eat any more bread. But he was telling me that he moved here in to the UK in 70s, and in 10 years time the three villages uh, where all his neighbors, all his extended family moved here. So it's not just his neighbors, it's three village in his area where he's from moved to Sheffield. So so what happens is when this village environment or idea or happening, uh, people cluster together and they don't learn English. Um, unless they know a little, and they just directly go to a school. So let's say they start a university, they start masters or PhD. So everyone around them are talking English and they need to understand what's happening. So because there's like a if it is a casual environment, everyone is chatting. You don't really need to have to understand it. You can get by, and you get by knowing a few words and some slang, and you're more exposed to slang, um, especially if you come into the subcultures of the culture, because the office culture is more of the conventional culture, and it's conventional globally. You know what to expect when you dress. You know the hierarchy. You know the types of gossip. You know the types of work. You know the pressures in there, all sorts of things. And in universities, you know what you need to do. There's books you translate. There's professors, your friends, and you just get to know the language. But if you just move to the country and you think you know English, or you think you know the language a little bit, you have 50 words or 100 words and a little bit of a grammar in your pocket, and you think for the first 2 years you're the king or the queen because you understand everything around you, and one day you realize that, oh shit, Sherlock, I understand nothing. And things change, and it's kind of a back and forth. um like everything kind of seems like a feedback mechanism in the way that we live, and you kind of make an agreement with yourself, with the people that you deal with, that you are going to be one of them. and that agreements allows everyone to accept you as you are. In some ways, you don't feel like you're liable to do more, but you force yourself to understand the culture. So what I'm talking about is how do you uh, how does this integration stage in the process works? As a foreigner, you come into a new country. If you have an office or a school, it's much easier because it's a known culture. But if you're not, then the problems start. Like my neighbors' villages moving here, their Turkish communities, they who the community members, let's say, was like, as an example, 3 village members here. They've been here for like 30 years and they still cannot speak English more than the basic. Like the basic is they have 10 verbs and they know 10 words like bread, sugar, beer, and that's it. That's the whole English, whole vocabulary. So the brain works with the vocabulary. Brain works with the hi Bailey. Bailey. That's okay. Come here. That's very good. She's a very old dog and doesn't see sometimes. She wants to have some biscuits. Is there anyone out there? Is there someone out there? There's no one. So, oh, no, you can't see, but I'm not doing any editing. So, you need to trust that she's a lovely, lovely old dog sitting and looking. So, what happens is after 30 years with 20 words, the thinking really degrades. And for some reason, people get really comfortable. They feel embarrassed. That's why they choose to be comfortable. They feel embarrassed. They are in the ground zero level because that's what it is. Moving somewhere else, losing your language is one of the worst things that can happen to someone because then you have to relearn it. And when a foreigner teaches that language to a foreigner, I can hear that too. There is a barrier between culture and between language. So it's just like basically you are like a Robinson Crusoe on the island and you just like met with your Juma and he's trying to teach you language. You have no idea. So it doesn't really go that far. The best thing would be is someone who really understands the culture and the language will teach it. And as some privileged people who devoted their times for 15 years maybe in their early school educations, who studied the like literature of that country, of that language, could do that. They will have the grasp of the details. Otherwise, the brain always goes back and forth the really simple words and it just doesn't want to move on because, you know what? Because it's really hard. I think that distinguishes some people. It is hard. You you might be somewhere that you didn't expect that you are, but you gotta learn this thing. I think that's one of the hardest things of the adaptation process. Because not having the language and not knowing the culture and creating your own subculture. So in my case, when I arrived here, uh, so my subculture became all this. Um, what's his name? all the circus people, street performers, weed growers, uh, and it's not legal in England. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm just gonna be deported, aren't I? So, uh, but well, it all passed. So I don't know anyone who does it now around here, and I'm so glad it's just getting becoming legal everywhere slowly. I can't smoke anyway. It just doesn't agree with me. But why would that be like illegal still? It's so meaningless. Like so many people are doing and just it's so what's wrong with it? Oh, so anyway, so my the subculture I came in here was all this um psytrance party or trance party people, techno party people. So people who go out for a few days to party and on electronic music with electronic music. So the clothes are different, hair is different, makeup different, style is different, and also circus people. They're all their styles are different, so it's so outrageous. You got to be outrageous, and even though I was considered as an outrageous person in Turkey, I was just like a normal office, almost like an office person, because I worked at the factory there, and my friends all were office people. We were just like uh, I had my own style and trend, but there's nothing like that. And that was a subculture that I agreed that I was going to understand them and I was going to be accepted. So to be accepted somewhere, you need to almost become of them by embracing your differences and understanding them very well, and that is beyond the language, but you have to have the language to be able to go through this process and get the details. And it took me a long time to realize that that wasn't the culture of the general England. Honestly, I thought everyone was like that. And it took me a long time, a few years, to realize that, oh, it's not actually. It's like these people here are very, very normal in their own sense. Um, but that was my agreement. But I broke that agreement, I think. So I'm here talking with you. Yeah. So it's a bit weird sometimes thinking about that, but I don't feel like that's what is part of my journey. I think we all share this building blocks of the past is having a part of our journey, but things really change along the way. We put a stone and the stone changes shape, so it's not that stone that we put years ago. Is it my responsibility? I'm just maybe I don't know why I'm kind of feeling like it's maybe my responsibility and somehow to this ether of the world to say these out, or maybe it's just like I really don't have anything else to say because I was so engraved and encapsulated with my own experience of living. I forgot along the way to improve myself. And the only things that I improved were like I did photography and stuff. And then one day I sold everything and now I don't have them. So it's a strange uh, place to be. Now I'm looking at, I'm just, yeah, now I'm looking at the past and it's so remote and almost not my past. So but there is a life out there which is built around subcultures, especially dance cultures. And I think it's wonderful, it's great, and one of the best times of my life. And I met so incredible amount of incredible people that I haven't met anywhere else at any time. And they're so intelligent, so accepting, so tolerant, so really interested in people, incredible listeners. Yes, they all took drugs, 99%, and some didn't. But they were very genuine people from early 20s to over 70 years old. But they also, I guess, they also have a very um, the the system and the culture in the world is not that well designed for the subcultures to thrive. You kind of need to make a shift along the way, and growing is not the right word, perhaps, but morph into a different form and see what came with you from those times, and is there a way to use those. This is what immigration has done to me, I suppose. Um, I was I was I was with someone, let's say, and so much has changed, she said, and she's struggling with learning the language. She's been here for 7 years, and so very little she can speak because the universities and the courses are not really that great because you don't have the one-to-one interaction of problem solving, doing something. It's just like a language is alive. It has its own life, and you need to be around people. Um, and she was so sad and so depressed, almost. And the point was, she was agricultural engineer back in Turkey, and She's nothing here. And she was grieving to herself and what could have become of her, but what has. She was grieving her own brain and mental power and adaptability and the quickness and wit that she had once and lost along the way because she can't use the language, she doesn't talk enough, and her brain functions were, it's getting better, of course. So that's what we realized. Like, you kind of need to accept that, okay, this is it. So I am not that person anymore, but I am here and I am this. And I'm in this subculture. This is what I get. And next, what do I need? What what can I? And I yes I can for my next step. There is a